Hi, I'm Janet from Gentle Footprint. Today we're going to show you how to make some simple bunting. This is a lovely traditional decoration that you can use in your house around birthday parties or even for Easter or Christmas. It's just made for some fabric and some bias binding. Now what you will need is some nice fabric that suits your decoration and what you want to use. Some bias binding, ordinary scissors and pinking scissors. Pinking scissors cut in a zigzag motion along the edge. We're going to use that to cut the edge of the bunting. You'll need a long ruler. I've got a quilting ruler here. It's 6 inches wide or 15 centimetres wide, 24 centimetres long. That just makes it easy for measuring and drawing. Don't forget some matching thread. The bunting flags I'm going to make are 6 inches or 15 centimetres long, which is the width of this ruler. So I've got a piece of my fabric folded in half here, and I'm just going to draw with a pencil along each side of the ruler. Now I'm going to cut along those lines. Now we're going to draw the triangles which will make each of the flags. I want the top of each triangle to be 4 inches or 10 centimetres, so I'll mark them down the side of the fabric. Down the other side of the fabric, I'm going to mark halfway between, which will be at 5 centimetres or 2 inches. So we'll mark at the 2 and the 6, 10, 14 and 18. Now we just need to draw the lines between each of those points. So we have a series of triangles. For this bunting I have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 triangles to use. You'll see the triangles are inverted, one this way, one that way. This won't work if you've got fabric that is clearly a one-way design. This fabric doesn't matter which way it will go, and so I can use both this triangle and this triangle. Next, cut out the triangles. Can you see that?
Yep.
And there you have your bunting all ready to join together. But before you do, there's one more step. You'll notice I have a piece of material on the front and the back of this bunting, but it's not joined at all. The first thing we're going to do is run a row of stitching just 1 centimetre in from the edge, right down there and up there like that. I'll do that on the sewing machine. We're going to stitch down the 2 long edges. I've got the material right against the edge of my presser foot there, which gives me a guide for keeping it even. When you get to the end, make sure that your needle is down before you lift the foot up and turn. Now here's a thread saving trick. Instead of lifting that up and cutting it off, just bring your second one in immediately and you'll stitch them and they'll be all joined together, which we'll cut apart later. Now cut your triangles apart. Now we're going to use the pinking shears or zigzag scissors to cut along each of these long edges. This will give it a nice decorated edge and also stop any fraying. Finally, we're going to join our flags together using this bias binding. This is purchased bias binding, which comes in 6 metres and a roll. Bias binding that you purchase, you'll see has been folded on each edge, just coming in almost to the centre there. What we're going to do is stitch down on that fold line on one side there. At the beginning, leave about 30 centimetres. We'll use that to tie up the bunting later. Open out one side of the bias binding and lay it so that the edge of the bias is right along the edge of the flag across the top there. Now stitch exactly in that fold. When you come to the end, you want to leave a gap between the two flags of about 2 to 3 centimetres. Once you come to the end again, leave about 30 centimetres or 12 inches of bias binding and just cut it off. Now we're up to the last step. Right. On our last step, we're going to turn over to the opposite side of what you stitched. We're going to fold that bias binding over so it goes down to exactly where that row of stitching was before, and we're just going to stitch that together. But to start with, we'll stitch right from the end of the bias binding all the way along there. I'm going to use a small zigzag. I think that holds it better. My zigzag is about 2 millimetres wide and 2 millimetres long. It's a bit tricky to start the stitching. Fold over the bias and put it underneath there, and then hold these two threads. Very gently start stitching. If you're not careful there, the end of that bias binding will catch down into the bobbin. But hold the two threads and pull it gently as it starts. Fold the bias in half and stitch it together. When it comes to the flags, fold the bias in half over the edge of the flag and keep stitching. Now again, when you've come to the end of the bias binding for the tying, you just might need to feed it through gently. Now that looked nice and easy, didn't it? You might be more comfortable pinning that before you sew it. And there we have finished our bunting. Let's look at it on the wall. Right, there's our finished bunting up on the wall there. You know, you can make bunting out of anything you like. I've made them out of paper. Atlases make great bunting, or pieces of sheet music. You can make it out of fabric. And curtaining is a really good one to make it out of. You get a fabulous range of colours and shapes to use. Have fun and make your own bunting for a special occasion.
Thank you, Mommy.